Chapter 4. Once you know you exist, you want to remain eternally. There are many persons who have a great attachment to their own individuality. They want first and foremost to remain as an individual and then search, for they are not prepared to lose that individuality. While retaining their identity, they want to find out what is the truth. But in this process, you must get rid of the identity itself. If you really find out what you are, you will see that you are not an individual. You are not a person. You are not a body, and people who cling to their body identity are not fit for this knowledge. The names and forms that appear with different colors and all that, their origin is water. But nobody says, I am water. But they say, I am the body. But if you see the origin of the body, then ultimately the body has appeared only from water. All these plants and everything, all names and forms, they appear from water only. But still people don't identify themselves with water. They say, I am the body. The existence of heaven or hell or whatever it is on this earth only. All names appertain to forms, and all forms appear from the earth and merge again into that. So there are concepts, the existence of heaven and hell. Discoveries are made by scientists. They receive help from their own consciousness, that knowledge I am itself. But what is it? They don't know. They cannot get hold directly of whatever they discover. Various books have been written, but ultimately Krishna, not a person, but consciousness in a form, has written about itself what it is. And that I find the most appropriate of all the existing scriptures. You mean the Bhagavad Gita? Yes, but I do not say Krishna is a person. It is consciousness in a particular form that authored the Bhagavad Gita. The same consciousness is in you, and it is also this consciousness that was there when you were a child, the same as is present now also. This time passes, the consciousness remains what it is. I call it Bal Krishna, the child consciousness. You give attention to that, catch hold of that, and then you will know. That I consciousness is the same in a child as in an older person. If you consider the childhood of present-day great people, great scholars, scientists, politicians, what were they on the first day of their birth? At that stage, the consciousness is present, but the I consciousness, that identification I am, is not there. Only Balkrishna, child ignorance, is there. The child does not know that it exists. When he grows up, then only he comes to know that he is. He recognizes the mother, and thereafter he starts to gather so-called knowledge and becomes a great scholar, a great man. But nobody knows what that child ignorance is. The Ani knows. That is why he becomes free. He has no pride about self-knowledge. The Ani knows the origin of that consciousness. This atomic consciousness contains the whole universe, but yet he knows that he is not that consciousness. So in that case, what pride can he have? He is the absolute state in which the I am consciousness is absent. If you meet Jnanis, you will find it easy to recognize them, for they will not have any pride in their self-knowledge since they have transcended that knowledge also. They say, I am not this knowledge or this consciousness. The consciousness in the body leaves when death occurs. And what about that growth of worms created in the body? There is life in that too, but the main consciousness has left. When the vital force leaves, the body falls. For 42 years I have been talking about this subject. When I met my guru, he told me to set aside all these various gods. He told me that my consciousness, because of which I experience the world, is prior to everything. That means I should reflect on this consciousness only, go to its source and find out what it is. The fact that I am experiencing that I am and the world is proof that when the dissolution of the universes took place, I was unaffected. If I were to have died at that moment, I would not be experiencing this existence. So many great people have said something like Krishna, but when somebody speaks out, he should first know that he is. Subsequently, something occurs and he speaks, but prior to saying anything, that I consciousness must be present. There was a time in the absolute state when there was no beingness, and then beingness appeared and you said something. So whether it is true or false prior to the appearance of beingness, you did not know that you were. So whatever you said after the beingness appeared, whether true or false, is also the same. The source of this beingness of the knowledge I am that you have is in the blade of grass and the grain of rice. Those people who expound knowledge believe that the world is first, and they were born in it afterwards. So long as this conviction is there, they cannot expound knowledge. They do not know better. When the I consciousness is there, then only the words come out. Prior to the appearance of that consciousness, are there any words? No. You were unknowing of your own existence. Now the first thing you come to know is that you are. And then you say something that occurs to you, don't you? So whatever you say, whether it is the truth or not, what is the basis for it? When the beingness is not there, there are no words. Once the beingness appears, whatever occurs is taught to the disciples and is promulgated as religion. But they are only concepts. That you exist, how do you come to know it first? Because of what? Now at this moment you come to know that you are. How do you know? I don't know. It is just that this sense is with me. That is all. I can't trace its source. When you know the source of this beingness or I consciousness, that is liberation. Then you become free. Not until then. All I know at this stage, from following the practice Maharaj recommends, is that the more I dwell in that, happier I am, and the less concerned I am with my status in the world. Whatever you are saying is just a saying in this world. Prior to the appearance of beingness, if you had known about your existence, eternal and absolute, knowingly would you have entered this form, this body. Now what has happened is that you did not know you were there initially. Only when you became a 2 or 3-year-old child, you started knowing that you exist. So whatever happened until then, 9 months in the womb and 1 or 2 years afterwards, is pure ignorance. Unknowingly, all this has happened. So the question is, prior to entering the womb, knowingly, would you have done it? Well, it depends on what sort of advertisement I saw about the world. Knowing what I do now, I don't think that I would have wanted to. Upon a person's death, the first stage is that he does not know that he is. Beingness has left. The consciousness, the I amness, is not there. Then the doctor comes and confirms it, and the body goes for cremation. And because of that which caused the I am knowledge to be present, the body material is there, but that I am knowledge is now absent. That I consciousness is not there in the body, so whether you bury or cremate it, cut it into pieces, whatever you do, does it matter? There is nobody to protest. I am giving you some homework now. Whatever you have heard, when you go home, ponder on this subject and write down some points. If you have any questions, you may ask them the next day. Interpreter. Many of the disciples write to Maharaj and say, I am separated from you, being in the West, and you are here. I don't have money to come, but I don't feel you are not here. You are here. You and me are one. That sort of letters he is getting. They are also experiencing the oneness, the non-dual state. They don't go beyond that. But they cannot transcend. They cannot go beyond that. But still they feel they should come here, although there is oneness. I tell them, when they come here, your consciousness is myself. So long as you have the conviction that you are a man or a woman, then you miss me. But if you take yourself as the consciousness, then I am always with you. That I call marriage. You want to get married with me? Then have these convictions. Now I am again going to the source. Janmalana means birth, marriage. Who are the two parties that are getting married at the source? Janmarlana, the birth marriage, or the union of two entities? One is called the mother, but it is fluid power, and the other is called the father, who is also fluid power. When they unite, that is birth. This is my spirituality, my study of spirituality. This is what I have been doing all these years, and I have come to the stage to know that I am that principle which was unaffected by the dissolution of the universes. Those are my convictions. I am telling you from my experience that I did not undergo any pain when the whole universe was on fire, was being destroyed. I was unaffected. Is it true or false? Of Maharaj's experience? Yes. I believe it, that it is true. That is why that as far as I am concerned, heaven and hell do not exist. There are other people who believe in those, and they may experience that sort of thing, but for me they don't exist. Interpreter. For the past 42 years he has been talking. Now he says that gives him pain because of his ill health. He tells people, especially foreigners who come here, to gather whatever knowledge they can in a short time. Janeshwar, a great sage, said, I don't tell a lie. Whatever exists has no substance. It is not real. The present moment is unreal. Prior to the appearance of beingness, I did not exist. So what was there? Now you say you exist, so I am going to talk on this subject. What is this existence? Or is it non-existence? You tell me 60 or 100 years back I was not there. So what existed then? What was there 100 years back? Whatever you reply, is it true or false? I believe it is true. It is just an honest statement of my knowledge. I don't know. I have no memory of it. So whatever you were saying you were not, that is the real existence. That is true. And whatever you say that you are now is false. That is the truth because it is eternal. That is the state in which the beingness is absent, the eternal state. And because it is eternal, it is the truth. Now, with your I amness, which is time-bound, it is not eternal. That is why it is untruth, eternal existence of the untruth. The principle which now replies, I don't know what was there 100 years back. The same principle also says that it was unaffected when the whole universe was destroyed. If you have full faith in the Guru, it means you have his grace. Consciousness or the beingness itself is the love. It is formless, and it wants to exist all the time. That itself is love. That love wants to be. So all your efforts are for that, to sustain that. And that is of supreme importance because it contains the whole world. Because of that, you experience the world. The world is in that consciousness. Since you are the Brahman, you lose your identification with the body. You are no longer a human being as you identify yourself with the Brahman. And that is like a raw mango, which slowly becomes a ripe one. In that state, you will see that you are not even the Brahman, but the Para-Brahman, the witness of that Brahman. It is essential to understand the working of this body and life force. That is the psychosomatic process. One must understand it in order to apperceive that the knower is totally apart from this psychosomatic mechanism. He merely witnesses. Now, in this body, the life force is a concept, but conceptually there are 4 parts. The one we normally know and understand are the Madhyama and the Vaikari. Madhyama is the thought that comes and gets expressed by the word, but underneath that are Para and Prajanti. They underlie and start the whole process. When the words have come out spontaneously through the life force, the breath, they are known as Vedas. When a stage is reached where the Vedas are no longer able to explain what happens, we call it Vedanta, which means the end of the Vedas. But the knower of this is totally separate and not concerned with the body. That is what is to be thoroughly understood. Interpreter. The disease that he has is of the body and the vital breath. Earlier he said he had passed it on, whatever that disease is, to the beingness. So let the beingness be concerned with it. If the beingness wants to accentuate it, let it do so. If it wants to hold it in abeyance, it can do so. In any case, he is merely the witness, and he has passed it on to the beingness on which the disease has really come. That is, the body and the beingness. The life force is the working principle in this apparatus. Whatever is dependent on the life force, including the Veda, exists only so long as the body and the breath last, and the consciousness. When that which is time-bound disappears, then everything else also appears. Even the Veda disappears, but the knower of this is timeless, spaceless, and is not concerned with what happens to the body, vital breath, and consciousness. When the breath disappears, this apparatus is also useless, and the one who knows this will not identify himself with the psychosomatic process or the apparatus. If he knows this intuitively and very clearly, he can be said to have jnana. The knower has been given many names: Atman, Paramatman, Ishvara, God. Names have been given only for the purpose of communication. Unless the principle or concept is given a name, there cannot be any communication. So it must be kept in mind that that which is called Atman is not a thing with a shape or form. Yesterday we discussed how one is likely to mistake the name for the thing. That is to be avoided, and that is why if someone asks, what is the Paramatman like? What is the Absolute like? Then you may say it is like Bombay. That is merely a name given. You cannot give me a part of Bombay if I ask for it. But one should not be involved with the name to the extent that one forgets the substance. Various names have been given to the Absolute State, but it must be understood that it is unconditioned, has no attributes, and possesses no identity. Any spiritual practice anyone may do is really based only on the working principle, which is the vital breath, and will therefore last only so long as that breath lasts. Whatever knowledge you have acquired of any kind, material or spiritual, is based only on this consciousness or breath. Other than that, there is no knowledge which anyone in the manifest world can acquire. It is based on this and therefore inherently, strictly limited. So one may think he is doing this practice on the Atman, but he is not actually doing it on the Atman. Atman is quite separate altogether. He is doing it only from the point of view of the life force. Because of this practice, when the life force is tired, it wants rest. And when you rest, it may go into a state of samadhi. But whatever experience you may have, even in samadhi, is also not timeless. It is subject to time, and the one who experiences is different from the experience itself. The experiencer is totally apart. It is up to us to understand the experience and not get involved in it. What goes on in the world is based on this life force only, and the life force acts through the words. The entire action in the world is based on this, but the Atman, the experiencer or the witness, is totally apart. And to repeat, the witness is like Bombay. No action can be attributed to the one who is the witness only. Can Bombay do anything? Any action will last only so long as the life force is there. One has landed himself in bondage by identifying with the name and form, but one is really that thing which is timeless, spaceless, and without identity. When we seek truth with the form, and that is where the trouble arises. There is name and form and action. The moment the life force disappears, there is no name, no form, no acquisition, no hopes, ambition, nothing. From the beginning of the life force to the end of it, or when the life force is tired, when it goes into rest, it is time-bound. The arising of the three states, waking, sleep, and knowingness, is based on this life force which has appeared. It is not the result of anyone's desire, neither yours nor mine. It is a spontaneous happening. Whatever practice one does is done through the instrument of the life force and is therefore time-bound. So one must not be mistaken to think that what one is doing is through the Atman. Whatever bondage one thinks one has is also based on these concepts, which are built up because of the life force, and they are all time-bound. Now, what is this bondage? Why have we got into it? It is because the mind flows out into words, hence this Madhyama and Vaikari. The earlier two stages, Para and Pashyanti, are imperceptible. Madhyana is the mind, and Vaikari is the words coming out. And through this, the thoughts and the words, we have mistaken our identity as me and mine, whereas whatever takes place is independent of the one who witnesses and is based entirely on the life force. Would you please understand very clearly that this life force has mistakenly identified itself with the body and thoughts and the words, and then considers itself to be guilty of something or that it has acquired merit by certain actions, whereas everything takes place independently through the action of the life force. If this is clearly understood, then there is no question of either bondage or acquisition of any merit. Is there any God? With the end of the life force, there is no movement, no thought, no word, no waxing or waning. Does the physical death mean the end of the life force? If yes, is there no truth in the theory of rebirth? The four kinds of speech, Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari, are the names of the vital breath. Ordinarily, an individual is not aware of Para and Pashyanti. These two are too subtle, too basic, and too deep for him to understand. So he starts working on the third one, Madhyama, which is also identified with the mind and comes out with words. And the fourth stage, which is called Vaikari. Now on this level of two minds, two kinds of speech, every ignorant individual works. And he has his own image made out of that Madhyama, which is mind. If he is ignorant and has not understood the secret of the universe, he will certainly talk about rebirth, birth, and other ideas, concepts which he has identified himself. Therefore, all these ideas and concepts of rebirth are for the ignorant. Otherwise, there is nothing. Is the science of astrology also in the field of mind that is Madhyama, this third type of speech? Remember that Madhyama is the name given to the mind. And when there is no vital breath, where is astrology? Where is the future? Where is the past? For any prani, any living being, one identifies with all the Vedas, all the activities, all that is happening in the world, so long as he has not understood the vital breath, whose language is all the four languages. You should understand all the kinds of speech that flow through the vital breath, prana. So long as you do not recognize this, you are bound to take as absolutely certain whatever mind, that is Madhyama, tells you. Those concepts which the mind has given you will be final for you. Thus, there will be heaven and hell and all kinds of merit and demerit. On the other hand, once the vital breath is understood, the one who observes, the witness, is absolutely different, absolutely separate from all these activities that are going on in the world. What is the difference after death between a person who has understood during his lifetime and a person who has not understood? The man who has understood this vital breath is beyond any mental concept, and the one who has not understood is a slave to his thoughts, which are the emanations of the mind. No, but his question was about after death. What do you call death? Now these ingredients have finished burning? They are finished. Does that mean they are dead? When anything becomes invisible, you call it death. It is not that. When something becomes visible, you call it birth. What is the point of assuming a human body? Interpreter. He will not go over these elementary points again in these discussions. Now there are breezes and winds and storms coming over Bombay. Is Bombay suffering or enjoying anything? So also are Paramatman and Atman. They are nothing but to be understood. But if after death the state of the man of knowledge and the man who has not understood are the same, what is the point of trying to become a man of knowledge? Who will say of the qualityless and attributeless Parabrahman that he is attributeless after death? Only one who understands while living that he is nirguna, qualityless, attributeless, he alone will say it. He does not know whether he is or he is not. Non-beingness or beingness have absolutely no effect on him. That is nirguna. That is Parabrahman. Bombay itself does not know that it exists or does not exist. Does the soul, Atman, go to hell or heaven? People say I have a serious illness. But what am I experiencing? I am experiencing only the vital breath. The vital breath sets and the beingness goes. But I am not affected. I am asked the question, can we say that you and I are identical? So I say, show me the sample of what you are and show me the sample of what I am, then I can tell you whether we are the same. But I am not sure that all his disciples would like him to continue the manifestation. If a deep wish comes from his disciples, would he respond? What is the need of responding? The one who has deep faith, according to that, he will experience. The experience of this world has come over us due to somebody enjoying ecstasy, and from the fluid of our parents' ecstasies have sprung all our woes and miseries. Does he mean that the two always go together? Is it necessary that in the mind both happiness and unhappiness ever coexist? All these concepts are the result of not understanding your nature. Because you have not understood what you are, misery is the result. Does Maharaj look after his family and other things responsibly? Interpreter: yes, and more than that. Talking of the vital force, the two aspects of it that we are commonly conscious of are our thoughts and the manifest of thoughts as words. What are the other two aspects of the life force? Do we have to be aware of them in the course of our sadhana? That you are aware of your existence, your beingness, is para and pajanti, two kinds of expression or speech that I talked about. Awareness of your existence is to be aware of these two kinds of speech. Their meaning is that you are in the three stages, waking, sleep, and knowingness. The next two kinds of speech are what you performed in the world, your business, how you carried it out with your mind and its activities. These four types of speech can always be distinguished in the following way. The first one, para, corresponds to your original state when you don't even know you exist. Then comes this feeling that you are about to become conscious. That is still para, but it is followed by pajanti, which is this consciousness. When you say, yes, I am alive, I am awake, I exist. Once having this consciousness that you exist, the behavior in the world corresponds with the two final aspects of the vital force. At this stage the thought comes, the mind starts working, madhyama, and the words start flowing through the mind, vaikari. To recapitulate, first, I am not even conscious. I do not know that I exist. Then this consciousness forces itself on that state of unawareness to an extent that we begin to feel that we are conscious. Finally, it forces itself into full consciousness. And I know that I exist. I am here. And that becomes a concept from which starts the entire world of troubles. In that original state, when you are not aware, there is no trouble of any kind. But once this consciousness makes its presence felt, all the trouble starts. This is not mine. I know this is not mine, but it is forced upon me, and then also I begin to say that it is me. This is the way that identification takes place. Earlier, the question arose. When I said consciousness, did I mean the body? I said no, not the body. For the consciousness to appear, it needs a body, it needs a vehicle, and the body is the food for this consciousness. Without food, the body cannot exist, and consciousness cannot exist without the body. So this body is the food for consciousness to exist. If the body disappears, the food disappears, and then the consciousness will also disappear. Then also it may be asked, is there any difference between what is termed Atman or the Self and this consciousness? It is the same thing, but different words are used in different contexts. The content is basically the same. I use the word taste, the essence of the body. The taste of that essence is this beingness of being alive and wanting to be alive. One loves the state of being alive and wants to perpetuate it as long as possible. So the love for this consciousness is this taste. I have one other question. I heard through the translation of what was being said this morning that most of the spiritual practices that we do in a kind of motivated way are attempts to manipulate ourselves. It is just really the play of the life force. So do they have any value? Is that what you mean to ask? No. My question is, if this is what we do, how is it that the witness state, which seems to be the core of Maharaj's communication to us, can arise at all in the midst of all these attempts? Although time-bound, the practice will unfold itself in the consciousness. The only important thing is its unfoldment. This will happen when through meditation we give it our fullest attention. Then the consciousness which has come upon us and is pure ignorance will itself show you your true nature. There is no question of going anywhere, arriving anywhere, or doing anything. You are there already. One has to work in the world, naturally carry on your worldly affairs, but understand that that which has come by itself, that is this body, mind, and consciousness, has appeared in spite of the fact that nobody has asked for it. I did not ask for it. It has come upon me in my original state, which is timeless, spaceless, and without attributes. So that whatever has happened is doing this business in the world. The life force and the mind are operating, but the mind will tempt you to believe that it is you. Therefore, understand always that you are the timeless, spaceless witness. And even if the mind tells you that you are the one who is acting, don't believe the mind. Always keep your identity separate from that which is doing the working, thinking, and talking. That which has happened, that is, the apparatus which is functioning, has come upon your original essence. But you are not that apparatus. This is to be firmly kept in mind. Every sentient being has a guru within himself. Unless the guru were present, the being would not have come about. The beingness itself is the guru. With respect to the four kinds of speech, they are the result of the vital force. Whenever the vital force is present, there is Atman and vice versa. When the force leaves the body, all the four kinds of speech also go, and the Atman, of course, is not felt. I-consciousness, beingness, and all activities happen only because of the vital force. Thus, when this force leaves the body, and the I-consciousness is no more there, the body falls. Then, I am asking you, who is there? It is nameless. I don't know who is there. It has no name. The existence of the vital force and the I-consciousness have the experience of your existence. That is why and how you know that you are. Without them, you could not know about your own existence. Do you have any guru? You are practicing yoga? What were you trying to unite? What with what? What were the two entities? To remove the ego. At the moment, you just listen to whatever talks go on here. So sit in the back somewhere. If you like it, you can stay. Otherwise, you need not come. But don't ask any questions. Just listen to the questions and the replies. As a newcomer, you want to ask questions? You think you don't know? That is correct. And whatever you think you know, that is not correct. Whatever you understand is not correct. And whatever you do not understand is correct. The former has a beginning and an end. Whatever you do not understand has no beginning and so no end. The mind has to be still because its movement is to create a disturbance. You said you are not the mind. So whether the mind is quiet or unsteady, how are you concerned? You are not the mind. Whatever you don't know, you are. So do you feel the need to sit here any longer? What I meant is, if you really understand what was said, there is no need to attend. If you understood once and for all, you can go. I think what a lot of us feel is that some of us are good at reading books and others are not so good at that, and it is only too easy to spout back the verbal input we get. But there is so much more that happens when we are in Maharaj's company, whether it is his physical presence or even only when reading the books. And I think that is what draws us so strongly to be with him, because it is as if the need for the talk at times just gets undone and that presence makes itself felt. After acquiring this I consciousness as a child, whatever impressions you gathered subsequently, on that basis only you talk. So that talk is bound to have limited value. It is only objective knowledge. The only purpose in any communication from Maharaj is to serve our freedom from all that. Sometimes concepts need to be clarified, but that is the only purpose. But I feel a greater purpose for me in coming here is to drop a lifetime of concern with concepts. Childhood itself is a cheat. There is no truth in that. Supporting all this, whatever your body form, and your body form went on changing. Your objective knowledge also continued to change. Ultimately, you grow old. Whatever happens, it is all like a dream. It has no substance. And supporting this entire dream, this untruth, is that child. It all began there, as a child. You began gathering knowledge, and when you became very old, you forgot everything. So all that objective knowledge was of no use. Now I am asking, what are you at the moment? Whatever you have gathered as your identity or your form, you are in the process of losing. So what then is your real identity? Suppose somebody becomes very old, say 125 years, and then becomes very weak and ultimately is about to die. Now why is it said that that person is dead? Because of what? Objectively, it is very clear to me when a person is dead. The vital breath just leaves, and the body is merely a heap of decaying cells after that. When the child gets exhausted or extinguished, you call him dead. Because the childhood was originally there, the person was living. Does Maharaj mean life begins and ends with the childish state of mind? I take it that with childhood the body is set into motion. And in a sense, death is the end of the motion that was initiated at birth. Why is it called childhood? What is that entity? And how does the name childhood first appear? Try to understand that. What is the principle called childhood? Consciousness is very rudimentary in a child. There is as yet no sense of his independent existence, no sense of I am this or I am that, a kind of randomness. In a raw fruit, is there sweetness? No. Ultimately that sweetness comes, does it not? Where does it come from? From the biochemical changes that occur when the fruit ripens. When you will understand what this childhood is, then that is liberation. Paradoxically, you will realize that you are already liberated. You must try to understand your I consciousness or beingness. With that, you can obtain a lot of objective knowledge and try to control the world. And if you don't understand this consciousness itself, then you are in bondage. You may do anything in the world, but ultimately you are in shackles. The consciousness, the child consciousness, has to know the consciousness. It has to know itself. That is the only way. If you live for 1,000 years, whatever identity you will have from time to time, nothing will remain the same. You will not have any permanent identity for yourself, even with such a long lifespan. Everything is contained within the knowledge that you are a child, and all that will finally go. So your whole identity will disappear, including even that child identity eventually. This childhood and this child consciousness, is it true? One who has recognized the fact that it is false? What will you say about that man? The one who has understood this becomes, in terms of the Vedas, nirguna, nirvana. Nirvana means no sample. Nirguna means beyond consciousness. So the activities of that nirguna or nirvana are like the city of Bombay. What are its activities? One who has understood this truth and has transcended it, his activities are like the city of Bombay. I think the activities are much greater from the city of Bombay and certainly spread much further. What I mean by the city of Bombay is without this land, without the earth portion, because you cannot say exactly what this Bombay city is. I think there are much better metaphors for it. Small and big you can compare, when there is something as a standard. But if what is to be designated as big or small is the only existing entity, how can you compare? If you cannot show something as smaller, then you cannot present something as large. The whole thing is relative. But we do that all the time. For your worldly activities in the objective world, yes, you use those terms like in a dream. So all those activities are like those in the dream. The behavior in the dream state, like that, all the activities happen. For some of us, life creates incredibly complicated and superficially appealing dreams. The great challenge is to accept these as dreams and see through the bondage they represent to us. Their implications for name and fame and our inability to let go of all that. Now this consciousness, as it began with your consciousness as a child, when that I consciousness first appeared, because of its appearance, you can say that somebody is very great. But suppose that this consciousness had not appeared at all. Could you then have detected the greatness of somebody? I would not have known. I would be non-conscious. So it means that in the absence of that child consciousness, you cannot detect greatness, does it not? The funny thing about our first impressions of self-awareness as a child is the painful memories that usually bring you to that, rather than all the happy, playful times where there was just no need and you were not thrown back on yourself. So remembering childhood means painful experiences, according to you. Well, that is the first time that self-awareness arises, when you are hurt, rejected, beaten up by your friends. When your mother spanks you, when your mother or father neglects your need for love. Childhood itself is painful. Without that childhood, there is no experience of pain, is there? Very straight, very simple to understand. One who has not experienced childhood, will he have any experience of pain? It all starts with that. I don't think adulthood is very much better on its own terms. We are talking about the beginning of everything. It all began with childhood. Now that childhood is also a concept, an idea. So if you understand that, you transcend at once all concepts. That is why it is imperative to understand childhood. What is the function of childhood? Its function is for you to know that you exist. That is all it has done. Prior to that, you had no experience of the I consciousness. My statement and that of my guru is that childhood is a cheat. It is false. The knowledge I am itself is a cheat. When the beingness appears, that love for existence is the result of the primary illusion, that Maya. Once you come to know that you exist, you feel like enduring eternally. You always want to be, to exist, to survive. And so the struggle begins, all because of that Maya. Chapter 5. The greatest miracle is the news I am. Whatever appears has really no existence, and whatever has not appeared also drops away. What remains is that, the Absolute. That is Bombay. That is what I am. Bombay certainly seems to be appearing at the moment. We should sell him another city. But I normally ask you this kind of question, whether Bombay sleeps, whether it wakes up in the morning, whether it is worried, whether it has pain and pleasure. I do not refer to the people of Bombay, nor to the land, but to that which remains. Now you know that you are. Prior to this moment, did you have this knowledge that you exist? This consciousness, beingness, which you are experiencing now, was it there earlier? It has been, on and off. This confidence that you are, the knowledge of your existence, was it there earlier? When I do what Maharaj tells me, it is very clear. It is still in an infantile stage, but my sense of me is completely undone, and there arises great happiness, peace, and clarity. But it comes and goes, and I forget. Its inherent nature is time-bound. It has appeared as childhood, and it is there now, but it wasn't there some years back, so you cannot possibly say that it is eternal. So don't believe that it is true. And so long as you are having this I consciousness, you will be trying to acquire things. So long as you know that you are, the things you possess have an emotional significance to you. Now there is the fact that your I consciousness itself is time-bound. So when this dissolves, what is the value of all those things which you possessed? Nil. As long as you have not understood this child consciousness, you can get involved in the world and its activities. Therefore, the real liberation is only when you understand that child consciousness. Do you agree? I do agree. During your entire lifetime, you do not have any permanent identity. Whatever you consider yourself to be changes from moment to moment. Nothing is constant. And what you think you are going to become changes too with time in spite of yourself. That change is also made possible by the child consciousness. Because of that, all these changes take place. That is why you must grasp this principle. If you really want to understand this, you must give up your identification with the body. By all means, make use of the body, but don't consider yourself to be the body while acting in this world. Identify yourself with the consciousness which dwells in the body. With that identity you should act in the world. Will it be possible? So long as you identify yourself as the body, your experience of pain and sorrow will increase day by day. That is why you must give up this identification, and you should take yourself as consciousness. If you take yourself as the body, it means you have forgotten your true self, which is the Atman. And sorrow results for the one who forgets himself. When the body falls, the principle which always remains is you. If you identify yourself with the body, you will feel that you are dying. But in reality, there is no death because you are not the body. Let the body be there or not be there. Your existence is always there. It is eternal. Now, who or what has heard my talk? It is not the air, not the physical body, but that knowledge which is in the body. That has heard me. So identify yourself with that knowledge, that consciousness. Whatever happiness we enjoy in this world is only imaginary. The real happiness is to know your existence, which is apart from your body. You should never forget the real identity that you possess. Consider a patient on his deathbed, certain to die. Now, when he first comes to know of his disease, say cancer, he gets such a shock that it is permanently engraved in his memory. Like that, you should never forget your true nature, the true identity I have told you about. A patient who is suffering from cancer is, as it were, all the time silently chanting, "I am dying from cancer." And that chant proceeds without efforts. Similarly, in your case, take up that chant, "I am consciousness." That chant too should go on without any effort. One who is constantly awake in his true nature, having this knowledge about himself, is liberated. A patient suffering from terminal cancer always remembers his state and similarly and ultimately undergoes that very end. So much is certain. Similarly, one who remembers that he is the knowledge, that he is the consciousness, has that end. He becomes the Parabrahman. If you are about to photograph this land, I would say, no, don't take photograph. Take a photograph of it, but without land. Whatever is Bombay, take a photograph of that and show me, can you? I could not do it. So that is like photographing yourself without the body. You are that, like Bombay. Remembering that you are the consciousness should be without any effort. When you say I, don't refer to this body's I, but to that I which represents this consciousness. The consciousness is I and makes use of this knowledge when you act. The pleasure or happiness that you have had, is it through the words that you have heard or because you have had a glimpse of your Atman? I've been studying a lot, all along, and doing sadhana. Since I met Maharaj, things are becoming clarified also, and I'm getting confirmation of what I have learned. What should be your ultimate conclusion after reading a lot, doing sadhana and listening to these talks? Is it that the hearer, the knower, is not concerned with the upadhi? That is the body, mind, and consciousness, and that he is separate from the upadhi that has come upon him? Does that mean Sakshivan, witness consciousness? You use the word Sakshivan, but what do you really mean by it? That there is this sentience through which you see what is happening. But other than that, is anything needed for witnessing to take place? The sun has arisen, and there is daylight. Have you put yourself out to do any witnessing, or do you see effortlessly? Therefore, witnessing simply takes place. There is nothing that what you call the witness has to do. Witnessing happens purely by itself. This knowledge I am has dawned on you. Since then, whatever knowledge you have acquired, whatever experiences you have had, whatever you have seen of the world, has all been witnessed. But that one to whom the witnessing takes place is entirely separate from that which is witnessed. In this witnessing and these experiences, you have assumed that you are the body, and you are involved in it. Therefore, you get the reactions of whatever you have seen and witnessed only through this identification with the body. But actually, you are not concerned with that which makes your seeing possible, and that which has been seen. You are apart from either of them. Living the worldly life and being a person of the grihastha, ashrama, drudging, working, sleeping, laughing, mixing with people of all nationalities, is it possible just to be and not identify oneself entirely with the body? Show me a sample of that which you think is identifying itself with the body. Generally, one identifies oneself with the body. One should not do so. You are not the body, consciousness, or buddhi. You are something different. I is something different, but you identify living in this world. Is it possible not to identify completely? Interpreter: that question has been conveyed, but Maharaj is asking, what is this I that cannot keep away from identifying with? The same I of which Maharaj talks. Why is there any relationship between you and what goes on in the world? How does the relationship between the body and the world arise? Because the I is encased in the body, and it is the body that keeps coming in contact with material beings, other bodies, animate and inanimate. You think it is the body that is coming in contact. If that consciousness had not been there, how could the body have come in contact with the rest of the world? What actually is it that comes in contact with the world? The I comes in contact with the world through the body. Whatever the Madhyama is, if that consciousness were not there, where's the question of either the mind medium or that with which the medium comes into contact? If the consciousness were not there, then does the body exist or even the world exist? That is very correct. Then consider this beingness or consciousness as the supreme God and let go. And even then, you as the knower of this are separate from the consciousness and the body. I understand. That which you have understood, can you work no more mischief on you then? Is it not so? I have understood with my buddhi, which means that you can only use the instrument of intellect to understand. But what is prior to the intellect? The Atman. You understand the Atman. Therefore, that which understands the Atman must be prior to even the Atman. That means Buddhi. Atman is prior to Buddhi, and you understand Buddhi and also that Atman is prior to Buddhi. I understand Atman with Buddhi. My Buddhi tells me that there is Atman. I want to understand Atmayana. With Buddhayana came Atmayana. I want the Atmayana, but not Buddhayana. There should be no confusion. Understand the simple fact, and that is that any kind of experience can only come from the consciousness that is there. And you are separate from both that consciousness and the experiences which come onto that consciousness. Unless there is consciousness, call it Buddhi, mind, or whatever, can anything be there? The answer is obviously no. Thus, in that consciousness, I can see my body and the world, and it is basically only on that consciousness that any movement or experience can take place. So that consciousness has the power to think or to feel? On that consciousness, something happens. Whatever movement, thought, or experience there is can occur only on this consciousness, and you are prior to this consciousness. Therefore, you are neither the consciousness, that is the instrument, nor any thought or experience, or whatever it is that is happening on that instrument. You are totally apart from it. Now stick to that. Stick to what? To the fact that you are apart from it. And you are that I know. But oftentimes one cannot forget that one is in the body. Remember that this body is made of the 5 elements. It is a material body. I call it food body. And in that is this consciousness because of which the body possesses its sentience, enabling the senses to function. For the senses in the body operate only thanks to the consciousness. And you are separate from this body and the consciousness. That is the only thing to remember. All you have is vital breath, the life force. And apart from the prana is the Atman. Other than that, what have you got? I keep coming back to the same thing. Other than that, there is absolutely nothing. Maharaj is commenting on a person. This person, for instance. All these difficulties that come and go should be merely watched like something in a play. When one scene is finished, another scene takes place, going on like an act. Then the entire act, the entire play, does it take place anywhere but in yourself? If she did not have this consciousness, would she be aware of this play that is going on? So ultimately, whatever the play, whatever scenes and acts that take place, they are merely movements in your own consciousness. You should take better care of yourself. Who is to take care of what? I know what has come upon my original state, and there is nothing to take care of that. It is a happening that has come and will take care of itself. And whatever has happened, I have not been affected. So again, who is to take care of what? I am not concerned with taking care of anything. The world has been in existence for millions of years. There have been thousands of avatars and great men and important personalities. Has a single one of them been able to do anything to change the course of events in the world? Whatever has come upon this original state is time-bound, but the original state is timeless and spaceless, and that is one whole, a wholeness. Not really one, because if you say one, there are immediately two. Is what Ramakrishna said and what Maharaj is saying the same thing? I have already told you the basic essence is only whole. All these differences are subsequent. They are to the concepts. So basically, when in wholeness, how can there be sin or merit or any kind of duality? There is something by which you are able to say that you understand, and you are separate from that. What you think you have understood is only a movement in your consciousness, and you are separate from that consciousness. So as far as you are concerned, there is no question of understanding or not understanding. We always think that we have a mental grasp of someone's teaching, that ipso facto we have realized that teaching, but we have not at all. We are essentially the same person, suffering in the same way. How did that original creation take place of the body as infant? And even prior to its birth, how did the conception happen? How did the infant come into being? without asking for it. Understand that. Understand thoroughly that drop of stuff which eventually has developed into a body. And then you will understand the whole mystery that you are not that. This body that is now occupying a certain space, how much space did it occupy upon conception? And what was it then? If you understand that, you will understand the mystery of the self. You base yourself on the body that you are now and don't understand its root. That is why we think we are this body, and for that you must do meditation. What is meditation? Meditation is not this body-mind meditating as an individual, but it is this knowledge, I am, this consciousness, meditating on itself. Then the consciousness will unfold its own beginning. Identification is with what? With this body that is now, but doesn't understand its origin. If you understand the temporal aspect, then you won't take so much pride in the body that is now existing. This body is thoroughly old. My mission is fulfilled. Now you people come, which is all right, but my mission is done. My soul is about to leave this body. I'm happy. I clap. I am in a clapping mood that I am about to pass on. I am no longer in love with or held by anybody, anything, any attachment. Forgetfulness, that noble, most elevated forgetfulness, will not arrive until all doubts have been dispelled. Unless the doubts are eradicated, that peace will not prevail. So long as I remain identified with the body, I want to be occupied with actions because I am not able to sustain the pure I without them. I cannot endure it because I identify with the body-mind with all kinds of activities. I call it Jiva Atman, which means conditioned by the body-mind, and is the self that is occupied with all the activities, and the I which is unconditioned by and not identified with the body-mind, that therefore has no form, design, or name, is Paramatman. The Jiva Atman is being witnessed by Paramatman, which is your real self only. What is it doing? Is it partaking in the working of the world? Paramatman need not participate in the activities of the world, but without that principle no activities could take place at all. Just as in the case with Akash, space. Without it no activities are possible. Activities are going on naturally, spontaneously, in the same way that there is no author or doer of your dream world. Nevertheless, you fully put to use your dream world. You will not be able to comprehend this so long as you try to understand things as an individual. But once you are the universal manifest consciousness and abide in that Paramatman spirit, I am, without form and distinction, then you will realize how things are. It can be doubted whether Krishna was the incarnation of God into a human being. If it is indeed so, however, then we must attach importance to what he told us. Whatever Krishna stated is perfectly correct. For that moment, that particular time in history, it was most appropriate. But that moment, that time, has gone. He also has gone. The spiritual elevation happened in him. That is why he is great. You are seeing and understanding things through the concepts which you have absorbed. But as a matter of fact, the actual state of affairs is quite different. You are holding on to it as the truth, but whatever you have heard will not remain as authority or as permanent. It will disappear. Then after the disappearance of everything, whatever remains, that you are. Neti. You have been continuously changing. You are in a state of flux. No identity of yours has remained as a permanent feature. And in due course, you will also become very old. So is there any constancy in all this? The truth is that the body is perishable, but Atma is imperishable, eternal. Do you know that, or have you read it? I am experiencing and also have read it. I am getting old and I have seen people perish. Yet there must be some author authorizing all these activities. You take the grosser 4 elements, which are engaged in activity. These four elements are presided over by space. In what activity is that engaged? If you are going to investigate the world of your observation, you will never reach your destination unless you give up whatever you have heard and abide in yourself. You will not understand all this. You must take it upon yourself to investigate this entire manifest world and whatever you have heard, but you will be caught more and more in a quagmire. When incarnation takes place, what is its cause, and in what form does it occur? The stories you have heard. Why does everybody become Krishna? What is that childhood? What is that child principle? Investigate that. The touch of that quality, the child quality, understand and realize it. When did you encounter yourself? Since when and how? After collecting all the messages and concepts in the world, you cannot investigate yourself. When Krishna was born, he had that touch of I amness. The same goes for yourself. Understand that. What is that touch of I amness? That touch of child in you. Since when did you know that you are? And with what did you know that you are? If you try to employ whatever you have heard, you will never be able to understand this. You know that you are not, but now you know that you are. How did this happen, this confluence? You were not, and suddenly you are. This is what we want to discover. I think I will give up on all this. You'll just find out and inquire about your own self. Since when did you come to know yourself, and how? Did anybody tell you that you are, or did you come to know yourself spontaneously? I was told, and also it kept occurring to me when I read Ramana Maharshi's questions. Who is it that dreams? Who is it that sleeps? Give up your body identity. Since when did you start knowing yourself? Concentrate on that only. Who is the one who slept? Give up that question because it is not relevant. There is no value in your question. At the moment, I do not want you to ask any questions. I am driving you to the source and would be satisfied with your knowing what you are. I want you to find out from you with what is it you know you are. Confine yourself to this area. Focus only on your knowing of that you are. How do you know you are? Just be there. You have been shadow boxing with the many concepts you have collected from the world. You are fighting with all that. What is the use of it? You know you are. How do you know it? And with what did you know it? This is the sum total of my teaching needed to put you on the right track. Its quintessence. When all your questions are answered, my talks are very easy to understand. And when you understand, all your questions have gone. It is a vicious circle. So long as you have questions, you cannot follow what is being said. What happens is that certain questions keep cropping up. I am going for the basic questions only. What are you? Since when are you? How did you happen to be? And due to what are you? I don't want to deal with a lot of sundry questions. They are of no value to me. If you like my teachings, you may sit here. Otherwise, by all means, quit this place. In any true spiritual search, whatever you have heard, whatever you have done is of no use at all to arrive at the real truth. The knowledge you are has happened. Due to what? First of all, you witness that you are. Stay put there only with this you are. Just be there. Then with the help of this you are witnessing the world. If you are not witnessing you will not be witnessing the world either. When you do not know you are, people also will not know that you are, and they will cremate you. So long as you know you are, people will respect you, as you are something. When you do not know you are, people will dispose of you. Stay put there. You must be present there only at this point. The you are point, bereft of all concepts, all hearsay. When you recognize and realize the knowledge that you are, you will also know what Krishna is. Any number of incarnations have come and gone. But when you understand yourself, You will realize all the incarnations. Because you know you are, you know the world is. You also know that God is. If you don't know you are, where is the world? And where is God? There have been so many incarnations, and now you know you are. That you are is the divine principle because of which all the incarnations were. Many people have come here, but rarely has anybody, after listening to me, come closer to himself. Rarely anyone will understand what I am driving at. But that rare person in the process of understanding me will come closer to himself, the one who listens. Those who really understand will abide in themselves. You did not know your parents before your birth, nor did the parents know you. In spite of this, how did the knowledge you are sprout in that particular situation? What is this amazing thing? I am again putting the same question. The parents did not know the child, and the child also did not know his parents before his birth. Now the child says, "Here I am. How is that?" This itself is the greatest miracle. That I got the news, I am. Have you any doubts that you are? No, that is self-evident. Prior to knowing that you are, what knowledge did you have? What question can you put here at this point? What do you know? The yana means to have an objective. You want to consider something. You are that something. Just to be, you are. Just being the being, I am. You meditate on something. That knowledge, I am, is yourself. Abide only there. Can you ask any questions at this point? Because that is the beginning of knowledge. One should not ask any questions until one has achieved the goal. When one achieves that, the questions will be dissolved. That is exactly what I am telling you. You know that you are is a very great miracle. This type of talk is not expounded anywhere else. The very source, the seed of this philosophy, nobody will expound. They will tell you to go and worship a certain god and you will get his blessing, and you will be benefiting in such and such a way. Do this and you'll get that. That deep urge to understand the truth is definitely going to occur. But if you desire to inquire into this entire objective world and are captivated by it, you will never reach the goal. By trying to learn all the history of Rama, Krishna, Christ, etc., you will not attain it either. You will never get satisfied. You will have that peace and quietude only when you know yourself, when you have that intimate knowledge that you are. You know you are. How did it happen to be with what you are? Because of what you are. What is the cause of it? Find out all that. Your present capital is what you have read, whatever you have heard and read. But that type of investment is of no use in the spiritual field. As I tell you, abide in yourself, be your own being, then only will you get that peace and quietude. So, I should not ask any questions? Correct. No questions. Just be what you are. As I tell you, when you abide in your own self, all your questions will be dissolved by the knowledge you are. The manifested extends beyond any limits. It is spread all over, ample. If that knowledge you are is not there, where is the world? And where are the gods? By reading various books and listening to everything else, you cannot become a Mahatma, but only through that knowledge I am. Don't concentrate on the body. Because of the body you call yourself a male or a female. Just hold on to that knowledge I am only, without body sense, beyond name and form or design. But you have to employ name, form, and design for the sake of worldly activities. You are lucky. I am not expounding this in great detail to other people. To them I simply say, you are, you, that knowledge, you are. Accept that only and be on your way. Don't meditate on anyone, any god or sage. And that knowledge you are, don't embellish it with the body. I do not tell people more than they need and may not go into great detail. Because your parents have come to fruition, you are here at this moment. The knowledge you are has no form and no name. It is purely knowledge you are. A name and form is good only for the purposes of the world. Presently you are adjustable by the name. Name means myself. And to that name you have given the disguise of the body. After relinquishing the name that is imposed on you, tell me your name. By hearing nobody, what can be your name? No name. Similarly, you accept the body as your identity. Right here and now, drop your identity with the body and sit still. Just drop this body like a discarded garment. Drop also the identity with the name. And now you tell me about yourself. Whatever you are is most appropriate. That greatest principle that you are, about which you cannot give any information. But you are. So long as you show that you are becoming more intimate with yourself and getting to know that self, your comments are all right. The love for that knowledge I am, the most lovable principle, is the knowledge I am itself. Is it not correct? That self, that knowledge I am, has immense love for the self alone. But when that self or that love of the self becomes mixed up or associated with the body, the miseries begin. One should have that realization of I-ness, right? Yes, but how can that happen unless you have full confirmation that I am is purely I am? You must have a firm conviction that I am is only that I am without body and mind form. The knowledge I am, purely. I am trying to do it. Practice it. When you say you are practicing that, it means you are developing your conviction. You are confirming your conviction about it. That is all. What other practice do you need? What else is needed? Is there a technique for it? That itself is the technique, because of which the world is. Male or female is the title of the body form, not of the Atman, not of the self. I understand all this. It has been explained beautifully every day. We have read it in the books. We understand it, and that is why I have come here. All these things are said by you, but has the knowledge come within the purview of the knowledge I am? No. You must have that full conviction. Whatever you may have said, that is the truth, and that is I am. There are no techniques except the technique that I am. The firm conviction that I am means I am only. Abidance in I. I'm trying to do that, and I think everyone here present is trying to do the same. When a guru is really a jnani, that is, one who has realized himself, you should abide in him. When such a guru guides or directs a disciple, no spiritual technique is necessary. There was a time when Arjuna also was not doing any spiritual practice. All the armies were in the battle area and the horses were ready to rush at the enemy. What time was available for Arjuna to practice? He just listened and accepted whatever Krishna told him. And that was all he needed to get realization. Arjuna reached the goal through his right attitude, and because his guru, Krishna, was realized. Don't practice this thing. Only develop your conviction. How long do you do this type of meditation? Until you stabilize in the conviction, I am the knowledge I am. At that stage, your individuality is completely extinguished. You no longer have a personality, and you denotes the manifested. In place of the lost individuality has come the manifest totality. For a realized sage, there is no question of going into samadhi and descending from samadhi, so long as the so-called sage does not abide in that stage, in that selfhood. Until then, he has to practice going into samadhi and coming down from samadhi. By sage, you mean individual? A seeker. Normally the word sadhaka is used here, and also mumukshi. Mumukshi is a lower stage and means inclined to spirituality. Sadhaka means one who thinks he is not body-mind, but the manifest only.